The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's MWF webinar. This week, inside of our MWF software, I will be showing you how to use our whole series tools. The reason this is going to be my subject for this week is we've had a few questions about it recently, basically working with our CNC module as well as the Onyx platform that we have. So we're just going to give everyone a refresh basically on the different ways of using the whole series and making sure that the options are checked off so that you get all your data when creating your CNC files. So what I'm going to be doing today is basically working with two different projects. So I have this one going on right here. So we're just going to use a few panels basically for our examples. And then I also have a second model ready to go where I'm going to be showing how to make use of the marker lines basically for the whole series. So I'm just going to go ahead and swap over to this project. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is obviously go into our panel. So I'm going to select the member here and go into my properties. And then we're going to go to the miscellaneous tab under whole series. So in the whole series options right here is where we're going to start doing our setup. So basically all the different hole types that you're going to require throughout the project will need to be created. Once this is done, we can then assign to our panels the different hole series types. So you have your holes that are going to come in center bay, vertical space, horizontal space, by offset, and then we have a tool also called hole suppression, which is going to basically stop holes from being punched in the members that we highlight. If I go like this, for example. So we'll get back to this in just a bit. All right. So over here under the edit hole type, you have about 7 options right now. As you can see here, lip notch, dimple. Okay, there's a few. I'm going to focus just on using these last 3 here to keep it simple. But basically, once you've selected these, so if I go ahead and do round hole, there's going to be a few things that we need to fill out for each. So you can create a hole type multiple times, even if it's, like I said, you can use round hole over and over again, just with different rules. And what I mean by that is for this little window here, okay, so for my first example, I'm going to pick round holes. Go ahead and do select none. And then I'm going to say, I only want my end stud members to be included when I'm doing my whole series. So I'm going to call this, let's just call it round 01. And then this is the option here that I was mentioning at the beginning. It's important if you're going to be generating CNC files, either through Onyx or through in Revit using our MWF CNC software, you do need to put an operation code in here. If not, when you start generating your data, you may not get all of the information that you need. So, if this was the operation code, I would put this in and then add this to my list of hole types. In my case, I'm not focusing on generating data today, but I just want to make sure that you guys were aware of this. And then you have one more option here, which is hide holes. So basically that's just going to, remove them from your model so you won't actually have a visual cue of the different punches being created. So once this option is done here, I can go ahead and add. It's going to add this to my hole types list. And you'll notice here, we have the description. So my diameter is 1/2 inch. If you highlight this, just select it here, you can go to edit shape. And this will pull up this little menu. And over here, you can go ahead and change the diameter for your holes. Okay, so I'm going to leave it. Actually, let me just put it a little bit bigger. Hit save. This has been updated. And then I'm going to go ahead and just create my other 2 so I can do all my examples afterwards. So we're going to call this square. And now I'm going to actually select all of my members that are in my panels. Again, no operations. I'm going to go add, and I'm going to change the shape here. So for the rectangular holes, you have a bit more options, obviously height, width. So we're going to give this a bit of a more rectangular shape. And then you can also use the stud width, and then it'll allow you to put a tolerance for when the hole is punched. Go hit OK. And I'm going to add one more, which will be the slot hole. And we'll change this to SH01. And same thing, I'm just going to go ahead and select all, do add. Then again, if I select this, edit shape, you have a bit more, just make this bigger here. Oh, go. So you have center to center, and then you have your diameter. Okay. And hit save. All right, so now I have these. So if I save this and I exit and I hit OK, if I go back into, this is the panel that I was working on just now, but if I go to the neighbor panel right here and I go into properties and I go back into my whole series, you'll notice that all that information is still here. This is saved to your project. So it's going to be important to know that if you're working on a different Revit project, yes, this information can be saved inside of the template, but all your different, the whole series that you've created, for example, this panel already had a few, I'm just going to remove them. You will need to export them. So again, if you're starting a new project and you're wondering why some of the whole series are not working and they're not generating your holes, it's probably because you forgot to export them from the original project. So I exit this, I'm gonna go back to the panel that I was working on. All right, so now I've created my whole series. If I head back to the whole series, edit, open this up, and now I have my different panel whole series type. So center bay, vertically space, horizontal space, offset, and the whole suppression. So for center bay, I'm going to go ahead here and select the slot hole, minimum bay width. So it's asking you for the minimum width. These are all pretty wide at this point. I think I'm at 18 inches, if I'm not mistaken, or 16 inches. So this is fine. You can put a depth offset. So I'll change this afterwards once we've created the first few. So I can go ahead and hit add. So now I have my series type created. If I go to vertically space next, you'll see that the option stays here. So you can keep a tab on everything that's been added basically to the panel. For the vertically space, what I'm going to do is actually add the round hole. And now if you remember in round hole, I made it so that it was only going to affect my end studs. So again, start offset from the top or the bottom of the panel. I'm going to go top, and then I'm going to say space every, let's say 3 feet. And then again, depth offset, and you can put an edge clearance. The options right here, I don't have any in my panels currently, but if you guys do have rotated studs, so I know some of the wood panel projects that we have, some clients like to have the holes punched, so we had to add these for any studs that are, on the edge of your panel, basically flipped. Okay, so I got these. I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to go ahead and just do one more with the by offset, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Actually, no, we'll leave it like this for now. So hit save. We're going to hit OK. It's going to generate our whole series now. And then I'm actually going to isolate this panel so we can get a better view of it. Like the members. All right. Okay. So as I mentioned, let me just rotate this a little bit. So I put the round holes for only my end studs. Okay, so you'll notice none of these studs have the punches or any of these little cripple members here that we have at the top. Sorry, the bracing. And then right here, we have the slot holes that are going from top to bottom through everything. Okay, so those are the two options. Now, I'm going to go ahead and remove the holes so that they go through everything. So instead of going through your panel properties, you can actually go here under the tools drop-down menu, and you can head over to, you have regenerate whole series, edit whole series, and delete whole series. So if I go edit, it's going to bring me back to that same window we were just in. I no longer need to actually regenerate the panel at this point. So what I want to do is make a quick change to the vertically spaced one. So I'm going to select my vertically spaced using round. Now you notice here, I'm coming to make a change, but at the top, sorry, I should actually go here, it'll be a better example. I'm selecting center bay, which is using the slot holes. You'll notice your input at the top hasn't changed to what you used to have. So if you are making updates, just, for width or offset, for example, you'll have to make sure to actually reselect the right hole type because it doesn't update it up here when you're selecting from the menu. Okay. So I'm going to go back to vertically spaced now. And I'm going to do, is actually change this round hole type. Okay, this guy, we're going to go ahead and select all. We're going to update it. Round hole, round, everything's good. And I just want to reinsert my size to be 1 inch. Save. So again, the panel is not going to get regenerated right now because of the tool that I used from inside of this window. So what you have to do is actually just, you could hit regenerate, or you can go ahead and do regenerate whole series. So I'm going to hit this, and now we should notice that the holes are now going to be actually penetrating every member horizontally. Okay. You see that? So everything's in. All right. So I'm actually going to switch panel right now. Oops. Reset this. We're going to pick one more panel. So one that I haven't worked on, I think this one right here. So now the option that I'm going to select is the offset option. So basically this allows you to place your whole series in a specific location. So it's not going to do the entire panel horizontally, for example, or vertically. I can assign the hole to be, just at the top or just at the beginning of my panel. So again, I'm going to access it through here. So we're going to do edit whole series. Open this up. I'm going to go down here to the by offset. So you'll have a few more options in the justification. Okay, so the start of the panel or the end of the panel, and then you have top or bottom of the panel. So if I do start, and I say I want to use my square holes, first offset's at 9 feet, and I'll actually put 2-inch offset to show you guys. So I'm going to add this, hit save, and we are going to regenerate the whole series. Okay, so this should be my E1, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, this is my first stud, and then this is the last one. So let me just flip the panel around a bit. Okay, and we'll notice here, so I told it to place it at the start of my panel. Okay, first offset is going to be 9-inch from the edge, and then I gave it my depth offset 2 inches, which is why it's actually pushed a little bit too much to the edge. Okay, so if I fix that up now, go back into the edit, and let's just go by offset and change this a little bit. So I select this, no more depth offset, and we're going to put the bottom, and let's just keep it with the square option. I can hit update. You'll notice the information for the description has changed, and then I'll save it. And again, you can go under here and regenerate, but this time I'll just hit the actual panel regeneration in case anything else had been done, for example. So now this is going to disappear, and we're going to have the square hole placed at the bottom. Okay, so 9 inches from the bottom of the panel, and it's going across. Okay, so those are the different options. So the only other thing now would be basically to look at, go back here, is the hole suppression. So for example, if I go here to hole suppression and I say all of these studs when using my square hole type, 1, 2, 3, I don't want them to have holes punched through. Okay, so now we have these selected. I'm going to hit save. I'll double check that that's good. If I go back, they're highlighted. Yep. And then I can regenerate my panel. So let's hit regen, or let's hit regen whole series. All right. So now we'll see here. So this should be 1, 2, 3, and S4. So these are the ones that I highlighted in my hole suppression. So now you'll see that they actually don't have any of the holes being punched through them. All right. So that'll be it for basically the whole series through the panel's properties. Let me just go back in real quick to make sure we didn't forget anything. Let me open it up. Okay, so you have your different options here. You have your offset, which is single hole suppression. And as I mentioned before, very important to put your CNC operation codes if you are trying to create data with our software Onyx or the CNC plugin that we have. So I'll escape from here. And now we're just going to swap over to my other project. So in this project, I've already designed my model lines. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using as marker lines, which we're then going to convert into our whole series. So make sure that you're using the 3D model lines. This won't work with detail lines and such. Okay, so once these are placed into your panel, you'll notice here the holes are already there, but we're going to go ahead and change these up a little bit. So underneath the markers dropdown, we have the create marker lines tool. So I'm going to select this. It's going to ask at the bottom to select members of one of the panels. So I just want to use this panel, hit escape. And now we're going to get the create marker line tool pop up. So within here, we're creating the horizontal marker line. You're going to be converting 1 or 2 lines. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead now, and you'll see down here again, select the desired model lines and click finish. So I'm going to pick this guy and this guy, and then I'm going to hit finish at the top. Very important to not just hit escape. Okay, and then you'll notice right here we actually have 2 in brackets, letting us know that we've selected 2 of the marker lines right now. And then next thing, again, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do with marker lines, but right now we're just focusing on the whole series option. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pick one of these configurations that were set up in this project. So I want my round configuration. So we're seeing this is the square, this is the slot hole, and you can also manage these similar to what we were doing before. Okay, so it'll bring you right back here. And then I can actually go to my round hole, edit shape, manipulate it directly here. Just gotta open this a little bit. Okay, so now this has been updated. I can save this, get out, and hit OK. So now it's been changed. Obviously, nothing happens right away. So what we have to do is actually, again, either regenerate the panel with this tool, or we can just go down here and do regenerate whole series. So if all works well, we'll notice here we got these big 2-inch diameter holes now that have been placed within these 2 marker lines that were created. All right. So those are your 2 options. Again, it's going to be very important, obviously, to set up everything prior to your project. What I mean by that is all those hole series. So if you guys, like I mentioned before, when I just put my holes to only be in my end studs, or if there's certain holes, if you don't want it to go through bracing, we are just going to go back in here, and you can create as many hole types as you want with the rules assigned to them. Selecting, I know there's a lot of members, so in some cases it's easier to just select none and then go pick the ones that you know you're going to require, or you just leave everything on if it's going through the entire panel. Okay, so that'll be it for the whole series. Just a short webinar basically to refresh on how to use this. Again, it's just for a lot of people, like I said, who were having issues with the CNC data that they've been creating because they had forgotten to put codes in. So I want to make sure that everybody was on the same page now. If you guys have any questions, I believe that you can just contact us through our support email. This will be recorded, obviously, and sent out afterwards. And eventually, Tanya will be putting this up on our YouTube page if you either got in late or would like to just go through all the steps once again that I just laid out for everyone. All right, so if there are any questions, you guys can either put them in the chat now, or as I mentioned, you can just reach out to the team. So I'm just going to wait a few more seconds before actually ending this. And just go back here. Okay, so there's no raised hands. Right. So I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today. We'll be seeing you next week with another webinar. Have a good afternoon.